California. We have some good news to share. Because we value our time, we like to start on time so we get in on time. First, let me introduce myself. My name is, I know we're a little tardy. The blue wave was a little tardy too. My name is Darren Harris. I'm the district director for Congresswoman Karen Bass, and I'm just here to kind of kick off our show here today. For folks who are not familiar with our district, it's roughly between UCLA to USC, the 110, you border with Ted Lieu. And so for the last few months, we've been traveling all over the district, hearing from different constituents and something that was called our Congressional Conversation Series. We had two, we did it for two reasons. One, so the Congresswoman can report on what was going on in DC, but also so we can hear about the issues that were happening in each and every single section of our district. Because like Speaker Tip O'Neill said, all politics are local. And the issues range. We talked about homelessness, senior scams and schemes, education. However, one thing that was very consistent was what's going on in Washington, D.C. with Donald Trump. What do we do with the president? What's the Democrats' plan? What is Congress going to do? And earlier this month, on Election Day, everything changed. Everything changed. The Dems took back the House. And I'm going to tell you that in the district office, the phones have been off the hook. People are saying, so what does this mean now? What's going on with the new members? How was orientation? What's going on in Georgia, and Florida, and Arizona, and also here in California with Gil Cisneros? Does he get to join? New member orientation. What about Katie Porter? And so instead of us having another congressional conversation, the Congresswoman thought it was appropriate for us to have this conversation with all of our constituents district-wide about now what. Before we start, let me just do a few housekeeping things. You all received a comment card when you came in, so if you have a question, you will have an opportunity to talk to the Congresswoman, or if you don't want to talk in front of everyone, you can turn your comment card to a staff person, who I'm going to introduce in just a few seconds. Restrooms are located in the building across the parking lot, so for folks who want to use the restroom. We will have a PowerPoint today, and yes, it will be available. We will post it on our website, and we'll also share it to folks who are RSVP. And let me just introduce my team, because I really think that with the right team, you can do anything. And I'll tell you that we are lean and we are mean. we are mean and nice. So let me introduce Jacqueline Hamilton, who's a representative from this area. We all know Jacqueline. Some folks may know Dylan Iwu was very busy over the last few months. When you came today, there were some folks that were checking you out. We manage casework in our office. So if you have an issue with the Social Security Administration, or with your passport, or with the post office, we have a team of constituent service folks. One is in the back end. Can you raise your hand? We have Claudia Aragon also, who manages our casework as well. So they have great success stories. So Claudia was out there. And we have some interns, volunteers, and fellows who are here today also. Abe, Tiffany, Andre, Edward, Maya, Niara, and Jordan. And so those folks, if you're interested in, give it up for them. When you call the office, the first people that you speak to are interns, and they handle a lot of our, our work. And then we have some folks here from DC. We have our comms director, Zach. Where's Zach? And we also have our chief of staff here today, Karen Street. She's in the back. She said make everyone come up. So everybody come up here. So while they're making their way up here, I do want to acknowledge a few of our council folks in the audience today. We have Vice Mayor Megan Sally Wells from Culver City, Councilmember Alice Fish, and also Councilman Daniel Lee. And if you ever see the Congresswoman, you're always going to see Stan Henderson too, who handles our security. So let me go ahead and introduce no strangers here to this office, a person who's always opens up his facility for us to have town hall meetings like this. Dr. Namazaka, who is the founder and president of the Imam Cultural Center.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to welcome all of you to Iman Center. I'm everything that President Trump doesn't love. I'm Iranian, and I'm Muslim. But this organization was funded by the Iranian American Muslim Association. And as you see, that's the only organization in the world that has a symbol of all three religions at the door. So that means this place welcomes everybody, regardless of it. And we are trying to have everybody here. We have a lot of interfaith activity here. We have Interfaith Festival of Unity every year. So I would welcome all of you to come to join us on the last Sunday of the month of Ramadan. That's a very good event. And we serve dinner to 2,000 people. Okay, this is a great honor for me to welcome the woman. I remember last year when she was here, she said she's going to change the Congress, and she did. We both are from USC, and sorry for the UCLA people. I've known her since she started to become the assemblyman in California, and we have worked together, and she's one of the big supporters of our center, Congresswoman Karen Bass.
Thank everyone in this room. First of all, this room is amazing. I mean, this is Sunday afternoon and everybody is here, and I just think back to 2017 when we were all in this room and we were all like, what the heck has happened to our country? How could this have happened after 8 years of Obama and we hit this? And we all said to ourselves, what are we going to do? And like Darren was saying, what's the Democratic Party gonna do? What's our message? And we said, you know what? As bad as we feel, we know the answer. And the answer is to organize. The answer is to organize. And we went out, and we went in the field, and we were out there since March of 2017, right? And we did the work. And I want to thank everybody that volunteered and put their time in, and all of the different organizations. And you know, and I joked from the time that man took over to now to say that, you know what? He made us all come together. He made us come together. He made us come together across every category. And he made us come together across issues. And people who never thought about immigration, or people who never thought about the environment, or people who really weren't aware of the injustice around racism, you know, now there is a renewed awareness What I'm hoping, though, is that we had our first victory. Now our challenge is we got to sustain this. We got 1/3 of the way there. We got 2/3 more to go. We got a Senate we got to get back. We got to have an eviction in the White House. We got to start that from day one. But I'm very excited. I really am. I am so thrilled. I have been in the darkness for 8 years. You remember when I went to the House, that was when the Tea Party took over. And the idea that they have been evicted and that come January 3rd, we will get the gavels. Can you imagine? Chairman Adam Schiff? See some taxes? We're gonna see some taxes. I think we'll see some taxes in January. Because the Ways and Means Committee has the power to subpoena the taxes. The problem was that the only investigation that has been going on is the Mueller investigation that none of us know anything about, because Congress was neutered and was not investigating anything. But you know, I sit on the Judiciary Committee, and Jerry Nadler, who is a constitutional scholar, wait until he gets the gavel. So look out. So we have a slideshow just because we want to savor in this victory for a while. So let's go, Zach. Oh, we can't see. Can we turn the lights down? So this first slide, let's see. Oh, Jacqueline is passing around the, hello? Una persona necesita traducción en español. Ella tiene una cosa ahí. ¿Persona entiende? ¿Necesita traducción? Okay. So, we won 37 seats. We needed 23, we won 37, and we're still counting. There's 5 more seats out. We did flip 2 seats in the Senate. And my friend Kristen Sinema, when I saw her this week, she's wild. When I saw her this week, I hugged her and I said, boy, the Senate doesn't know what they're in for. So keep your eyes on Sinema. And we lost 4, and that was really awful. We do have the 1 seat in Mississippi, that's the runoff. You know, that was a weird seat. There were 3 people running. And so there's a runoff. Mike Espy is in that race. And the woman that is running against him, you heard what she said, that she was so excited. Mississippi, that had more lynchings than any other state. I'm not even sure that they ever passed the anti-lynching law in Mississippi. You do know that we never passed the anti-lynching law in Congress. I know that the 3 African-American senators, Scott, Kamala, and Booker, authored legislation to ban lynching in the United States. They introduced the bill either this year or last year. Was never done. At the state level, we won 7 governors. And I'm proud to say that 3 of those governors came out of the House of Representatives. So my good friend Michelle Lujan Grisham, and she's a real fireball. I call her Little Bit, that's her nickname, because she's not quite 5 feet, but she's got like a huge personality, and so she's just a blast. I was so excited to see her win. And then Jared Polis is going to be the new governor from Colorado. Tim Walsh is going to be the new governor from Minnesota. And I think all of our friend, Keith Ellison, who comes to LA quite often, is going to be the new Attorney General. And then 380 state legislative seats. And you know, this is really critical because, you know, one of the criticisms of us from 10 years ago, or 8 years ago, is that we put our eye off the ball, and we didn't pay attention to the state seats. And over a few years, the Republicans won 1,000 state legislative seats. Well, in one election, we took it back a third. 2/3 more to go. Took it back a third. But these legislative seats in the Attorney General, all of this at the state level, the governor, the Attorney General, and the state seats are critical because of why? Redistricting. Redistricting, which is where the gerrymandering takes place. But you know what? I have to say that in spite of gerrymandering and in spite of voter suppression, we showed that organizing rules. If you organize and if you're on the ground, even with gerrymandering, even with voter suppression, you can win, because a lot of people believe that we were never going to get the House until 2021. And we proved that organizing can win about that. So let's look at LA. This is LA before the election. Look at those red areas. Now let's look at LA now. Now, I've been around for a while, so when I was growing up, we were afraid to drive to San Diego. We were afraid to go to Orange County. We were afraid to drive through Orange County, and we called it going through the orange curtain. When I was a kid, I was not allowed to go to Disneyland or Knott's Berry Farm. Knott's Berry Farm had a bookstore that had literature from the John Birch Society. And the racism in those two parks were so bad that we weren't allowed to go there. But now, Orange County is blue. It is amazing. And our stars of the day, our candidates, who are now my colleagues. And Gil Cisneros' race was just called last night. So that's 6 from California, but we're missing, oh no we're not, Josh Harder, Jeff Denham. Now, Jeff Denham's seat, the one in Central California, I can tell you, 14 years that I know of, we've been trying to get that seat. And they were trying before my time, so that was 6 years in Sacramento we tried, 8 years that I've been in Washington, and they were trying before I went. So that's how long it took to get that seat. But now I'm not going to have Dana Rohrabacher to make fun of anymore. He's not going to be on the Foreign Affairs Committee, and I can't say, uh-oh, here comes Putin representative talking. I'm going to tell you, though, I'm going to miss Dana. We had fun just openly clowning Dana. You can go on. So I wanted you to see all of the new Democrats, and so we're going to show you some slides. These are some amazing people who are now all of my new colleagues. Isn't that nice? So these are the races that remain. And what did you say, Zach? Did you tell me Republicans are leading in 3 and 4? But by very, very small amounts, like, you know, couple hundred votes. So when you're that close, I mean, you remember, our races weren't called. I will tell you, though, that the day after the election day, when I woke up and I looked at my phone and I saw that we hadn't won anything yet in California, and I panicked. I was like, oh my God, we didn't win anything. So 400 votes, it can go back and forth. So there is still hope for us. My hope is that we'll get to 40, because that just seems like such a great number. So the Congressional Black Caucus grew by 9 members. Now what's exciting to me is that for the first time in U.S. history, we have 2 Africans, Ilhan Omar and Joe Neguse. Ilhan is amazing. She was born in Somalia. She spent many, many years in a refugee camp before coming here as a refugee. Joe Neguse, who took Jared Polis' seat, he was born in Bakersfield, but his parents are Eritrean refugees. So Ilhan took Keith Ellison's seat. Now Ilhan is going to provide a challenge because she has her hijab. And you know, on the floor of the House, we're not allowed to cover our head. which I will tell you is a problem because, you know, a couple of my female colleagues, like one recently from New Jersey, just finished going through chemo. And so she has two choices, either be bald on the floor or wear a wig. And obviously it's less controversial when the men go through chemo. You guys can be bald and we can be bald too, but you know, come on. And because we're in charge, and this is what it means, we're going to change the rules to say. Because if Ilhan was not able to cover her head, that is religious discrimination. So we will, and so watch for that controversy, because that controversy is going to come up, and we'll see how people respond to that. So now both of them are interested in being on foreign affairs. Now you know that I'm on the Africa subcommittee, and I'll be chair of the Africa subcommittee. So I told the two of them that what I want to do in February is I want to take both of them to Ethiopia to the opening session of the African Union and introduce them as the first two African members of the House of Representatives. So I'm very excited about that. And another little detail about the Black Caucus. Some of you may know that I'm running to chair the Congressional Black Caucus. We will be 57 members of the Congressional Black Caucus. And my election is on the 28th, and so far I'm running unopposed because the candidate dropped out of the race, so hopefully I'll be the next chair of the Congressional Black Caucus. So this kind of summarizes the diversity, which is why we're Democrats. The first African-American women to represent Massachusetts and Connecticut. And, you know, especially in Connecticut, one thing that we have proved, and hopefully we will put to rest, is that you don't have to be from an African-American district to be in Congress. Now, I want to tell you something. There was a little battle in our Democratic Party who didn't necessarily want to support African-American candidates if there wasn't a significant African-American population. Well, we have candidates who won where the African-American population is 1 to 2%. And so hopefully we have put that to rest in our party. And I mentioned Joe Neguse and Ilhan, the first Muslim women. Well, I there's two Muslim women. There's a Palestinian woman who replaced John Conyers from Michigan. The first Latinas to represent Texas in Congress, thanks to Beto. And you guys love Beto? The first Asian American to represent New Jersey, and two Native American women. Two. One of them, I'm not gonna mess with her. I think she's a wrestler or a boxer. What's it called? MMA, yeah, all I know is I'm staying out of her way. Okay, so we won. What now? What are we going to do? So I will tell you that we are absolutely going to deal with pre-existing conditions. You know, it killed me the way the Republicans, and I mean, and this is the thing, this is one of the things that's difference between us. They just lie. And I'm tired of this language, falsehoods, untruths. I grew up hearing that was a lie. And they lied and said how can you repeal the Affordable Care Act and say that you protect pre-existing conditions? But here's what I hope we do. Because, you know, I'm critical of our message around the Affordable Care Act. We spent all our time talking about the uninsured, which obviously is very important, but we didn't talk about the way everybody benefited from the Affordable Care Act, whether you had insurance or not. Pre-existing conditions and healthcare caps apply to everyone. So I'm hoping we do a better job with that. So lowering prescription drug prices and increasing wages. And I think there is going to be, I don't know exactly what it's going to be, but a move for maybe increasing the minimum wage or something, but we are definitely going to address wages. Going to address infrastructure. Now, the reason why we have the gas tax that was on the ballot. You know, the Republicans tried to use that to rally the Republican vote to repeal the gas tax. But the reason we have the gas tax in California is because the federal government won't do anything. So we will deal with infrastructure, and hopefully we'll be able to get that accomplished in a bipartisan manner. And then the accountability and oversight. Now, what's his name has coined a new word called, he does that all the time, doesn't he? Presidential harassment. That's what he is calling oversight. So we are going to hold him accountable, and we are going to do oversight. And by the way, oversight happens in a lot of committees. So the Ways and Means Committee will be the one that gets his taxes. Wait for Maxine to subpoena his... Our homegirl will chair financial services. Which means she'll be able to subpoena his financial records, which that should be interesting. She'll also be able to fight to protect Dodd-Frank and all the other things that they've been trying, you know, to do. But I mentioned oversight on judiciary, so we'll be able to, and I want you to know that one of the things I'm going to go after big time next year, because I have been absolutely obsessed behind it, and that's those kids at the border. You know, they stopped talking about them. I think it's an American atrocity. They have set up these tents. They basically are incarcerating the kids now, and I really worry, and I hate to say it in such a negative way, but I think they're going to put these kids on the market. I think they're going to put them up for adoption because they don't know where their parents are. They deported their parents. So I did one bill, but I'm going to do another bill that makes the federal government be responsible, and the federal government pays. They should compensate those families because they kidnap their children, and they should pay for reunification. Right now, the federal government's not responsible for reunification. So the first bill that we're going to introduce on day one is called H.R. 1. And when we open it up for Q&A, you might have some more, I can be more specific about it. But there are several components to this bill. This is one of those examples of where you take a lot of pieces of legislation, put it together into a comprehensive bill. And so one of the first things that the bill does is, well, one of the first things is strengthens our nation's ethics laws, imposing higher ethical standards in government is one of the first things that it deals with. So you know that one of my colleagues, Republican guy, unfortunately I think he won. Did Chris Collins win? But he's just temporary because he's going to jail. He was involved in insider trading, you know. So I didn't know that you could be on corporate boards and be a member of Congress. I already thought that was illegal, but you know, obviously it wasn't. So you know, we will deal with that. The other one is imposing ethics pledge for political appointees while clarifying the waiver process, because that's been what a lot of what Trump has done. Did you hear about, I have to digress for a moment, but did you hear who he appointed as the ambassador of South Africa? Yes. I mean, first of all, our history in South Africa is bad. We supported apartheid. We called Nelson Mandela a terrorist. As a matter of fact, it took years, even after apartheid fell, to remove the terrorism title from Nelson Mandela. So he appoints a white South African. And she's had a very significant life. She does very important work. She designs purses. And I don't know how many of you have her purses, but her purses cost $10,000. But what's more important about her, and the real reason she got appointed, is that she is a dues-paying member of Mar-a-Lago. And and she pays $200,000 to, you know, schmooze at Mar-a-Lago. So did I call up the South African ambassador and apologize on your behalf and disassociate ourselves from that appointment and acknowledge our bad history on this issue? And I told him, I said, if I were in the Senate, I would never vote to confirm this person, and frankly, I'm embarrassed by this appointment. So the other section of the bill deals with voting rights and improving the access to the ballot. So creating a national opt-out automatic voter registration, which means if you don't want to be registered, you got to say you don't want to be registered. Prohibit the distribution of false information about elections. And then it also promotes election integrity by banning partisan gerrymandering and ending voter poll purging. And what I believe is that Stacey Abrams, I believe, was elected governor. I believe in an old-fashioned way, they just stole that election from her. How on earth can you have the person who is in charge of election be running for office and counting the votes? That's the kind of stuff we criticize other countries for. You know, I was over in Zimbabwe in August as an election monitor over there for their presidential election, and I kind of walked around, it's like, yeah, I'm from the United States. It's embarrassing, given what's going on here. So the other part of this bill, this section, is the Voting Rights Act, because we need to clean up the Voting Rights Act since the Supreme Court eviscerated it. And how dare they say we don't need it anymore. After this election, what happened in this election? You know, that woman who talked about the public hanging, she's also caught on tape saying that we should make it hard for people to vote, especially those young people. We should make it hard for them to vote. She's on tape agreeing to that. And then the last part of this bill, H.R. 1, and again, this is what we're going to do day one, the first bill, that's why it's called House Resolution 1, is to secure our elections. So federal resources to secure the elections. You remember those guys had an opportunity to do that, and they refused to put the money in to make sure that our elections were okay. So, as I mentioned, you know, I'm on the House Committee on Judiciary, and what I plan to work on this year, and we'll talk more about this, is criminal justice reform. Yay! And my focus on criminal justice reform is going to be gender specific to women and also to children. Because in the big discussions on criminal justice reform, the ladies and the kids are always left out. So I think that it's a crime against humanity, frankly, to put children in a solitary confinement. I think it's child abuse, just like I think what goes on the border is state-sanctioned child abuse. I think what we do by incarcerating children, not every country incarcerates children, you know, but I think some of the things that we do to children is really child abuse, and is something that should end. So I'm going to be very involved in that. And then I also will be on the committee that deals with intellectual properties, which is very important to our district here, given the entertainment industry. So I'm working on a bill right now that, that's not what the bill's called, though, Pregnant Women in Custody Act. It's called something else. You remember what it's called, Karen? What our bill on women in prison is called? It's not called that, but it's called that? Okay, good. Show you what I know. Anyway, it's a bill to look at the health and well-being of pregnant women who are incarcerated. Now, I'm doing the bill, it's a very bipartisan bill. My whole strategy was to get all the women in the House to be co-sponsors of this bill. We do have the majority of the women, majority of the Republicans, and majority of the Democrats. My co-sponsor on the bill is Mia Love. Now, she actually might not win her election, but we're going to try to get it done before the end of the year. If not, I'll have another co-sponsor next year. But one of the reasons why I was trying to deal with the bill that way is because I thought that a lot of the women who are anti-choice, because I reject the term pro-life, that they would be supportive knowing that women, and they were actually surprised. They never thought about the fact that women are pregnant in prison. And we shackle them. We, put chains around their stomachs, around their feet, and around their hands, all through their pregnancy. And in some instances, we chain them, shackle them to the gurney during labor.